Okay, this one, as I read through this, I am going to, because this is a really great question and a really great process that we can all learn from. So as I read the question, I'm going to give some of the answers. So Ruth is a registered nurse of 13 years. I'm so torn. I've been pursuing a business for 6 years and still make no profit. I'm torn between pursuing nursing, getting my master's as a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and continuing to teach human design, yoga, and tantra. So, of course, my first response to this is, what does your sacral say to that? And Ruth is a sacral generator with a 360, and it is not fully conscious. So again, this is one of those authorities where, we looked at Gittes's chart last time, and he has a fully conscious, defined sacral connected directly to his spleen. So he's super in touch immediately with like his immediate intuitive responses. Here we see a partially conscious, but mostly unconscious 360, and get really connecting into your body and understanding like, what does your sacral say yes to and what does it say no to? Because that's going to be the most important part in this decision-making process. And as we read the rest of this, some of the answers are already in there. So what that could look like in my mind, okay, so using the mind to figure out our own life, is travel nursing, which I love. So that's a yes, except for the schedule. I've broken up with the idea of working 12.5-hour shifts 3 days a week. So that's a sacral no. But that is a requirement to travel nurse. So it sounds to me here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, okay, even though there are things that are a sacral yes for you about travel nursing, it's not a full-on yes because the schedule is not going to work for you. You do love the opportunity it brings you. My dream life is to get a camper van. Sounds like a sacral yes to me. But I need the finances to make that happen. That sounds like your mind trying to figure it out. I could travel nurse, best income, that's your mind, and save for this. But I'm so wiped out energetically right now, that's your sacral saying I don't have the energy for this. I'm a singer-songwriter and feel this urge to get my music and arts out into the world, including my entrepreneurial path. That sounds like a sacral yes to me. But historically, that sounds like your mind. The more I've pursued it, getting coaches and classes, the more fear I have and the less profit I seem to make. Okay, so this is really common. So you have gate 24, okay, this is the fear of ignorance. And the fear of ignorance definitely comes out like as this desire to get more and more and more and more and more and more education on an undefined ajna, which in the shadow state has a desire to be certain. Like, I need to make sure, I need to know for sure this is going to work. I need to know that I know enough. And then we can pursue all of these trainings, all of these different coaches. And there's this part of us that feels like, and I've definitely done this more, like I can't even tell you how much money I spent on this. So I know what this is like, where we feel like we need somebody else to like save us or give us some kind of certainty. But then what ends up happening is now we're just feeling less and less certain. Somebody might be telling us, well, you have to do it this way. This is the only way it's going to work, but it's not the right way for you. So you're not actually in alignment with it. And you might be following these cookie cutter strategies that do not align with your energy. And when doing something that doesn't align with your energy, it does not work. It's the thing, like you've got to find something that aligns with your energy. And it's quite possible that you don't need any more coaching or any more classes. You've already done that. You probably know inside you exactly what you need. You probably know more than you give yourself credit for. You also have gate 32, which is the fear of failure. And those are just like some things to really, really be aware of when we're considering this. Now, if we go back to your question, on the other hand, the more money I make in nursing, the less focus I have been on my music and entrepreneurial work. So now we're going back to the mind saying, well, you make good money in nursing, so you should maybe do that. But then the thing that actually gives you a sacral yes, which is the music and entrepreneurial work, you no longer have time or energy for, because as a generator, when you're using your energy in degenerative ways, meaning you're saying yes to something that you actually want to say no to, that drains your sacral energy, not that replenishes it, you now don't have the energy to do the work that you actually really love. Then you increase spending because you're using finances to soothe the ache of not living in alignment. So you already know that, like working 12 and a half hour shifts 3 days a week, right? So you got like, this is very, very clear to me that your sacral says absolutely not to 12 and a half hour shifts, even if you like nursing. I'm also seeing that you are saying yes to getting a camper van. And when you really allow yourself to like follow your own inner authority, like really unabashedly, I'm so curious what will happen, because I can imagine that the strangest things happen and out of nowhere you will somehow secure a camper van, and not necessarily in the logical way. Like you don't know how it's going to happen. Like you could inherit one or you could win one. Like there's so many different ways it can happen that don't involve you doing work that does not energize you, that actually drains your energy in the attempt to save up money, because your mind is telling you that's the only way you can get a camper van. And then the last thing here is I'll always keep my foot in the door as a nurse, probably for the rest of my life, but only working 1 or 2 8 to 10 hour shifts per week, typically, unless I'm in a season of retreat, hosting, event planning, launching, course creating, book writing, etc. And that to me sounds like a yes. Like if you can work 1 or 2 8 to 10 hour shifts per week, and that is what you have the energy available for, then that sounds amazing.